Did you know that nearly 80% of no-start cases trace back to the starter motor and can leave you stranded at the gas pump? What is a starter motor? In this video, we are talking about 9 symptoms of a failing starter motor and how to prevent costly roadside breakdowns. So, what is a starter motor? It's the little motor that spins your big engine, so it can spin fast enough to ignite fuel and spark. For a few seconds, it delivers a strong torque surge, often pulling triple-digit amps in the process, just long enough to bring your bike to life. Cruiser, sport bike, dual sport, or vintage, doesn't matter. It's universal. You can find it near the crankcase, bolted in with heavy cables leading to the battery and ignition. Let's break down the 9 warning signs your starter is failing before a quick errand becomes a stranded call. Symptom 9, click, but no crank. You press the starter button and hear a single sharp click, but the engine doesn't move. Riders often describe it like knocking on a locked door. You hear someone answer, but they don't let you in. The sound comes from the solenoid doing its job, but the starter motor doesn't turn. Worn brushes or weak windings inside are the usual suspects. Imagine a drummer who can still tap the sticks together, but can't lift his arms to actually play the drums. That's your starter. It has the rhythm, but no energy. If you want a quick check, grab a multimeter. Hold the probes to your battery while pressing the starter. If the voltage stays at 12.5 or higher and the engine still won't crank, your starter is the problem, not your battery. Start with the cheapest option. Replace the brushes. Many brush kits cost $30 to $60 and can be swapped at home with basic tools. Clean the solenoid contacts while you're in there. If the motor windings are burnt, a rebuild or full replacement may be necessary, costing you at least $150, so avoid repeated cranking. It overheats the solenoid and adds more repair costs. This innocent click doesn't stay innocent. Keep pushing, and the next sound you'll face is grinding, a sound that makes every rider's stomach drop. Symptom 8, a grinding start. You push the button and instead of a confident spin, it sounds like a blender chewing up nails. Every rider freezes when they hear it. That noise comes from worn gear teeth or a starter clutch that isn't engaging properly. The starter gear is trying to mesh with your engine's flywheel, but instead of a handshake, it's slipping and scraping like 2 gears in a broken watch. A quick check is simple. Pull in the clutch and try again. If the sound changes, you're hearing gear engagement issues. Check your oil too. If you find metal shavings, the gears are grinding each other to dust. Stop cranking immediately. Remove the starter and inspect the starter clutch and gear teeth. Replacing a worn starter gear or one-way clutch runs $200 to $400 in parts. Flush your oil and replace the filter to remove any metal debris. If left unchecked, filings can scar bearings and cylinder walls, multiplying costs into the thousands. Imagine chewing a sandwich full of sand. Every bite grinds your teeth down. That's what your engine feels when metal filings mix into the oil. And here's the scary part. Grinding doesn't just stay noise. It creates heat. Heat builds into smoke. And smoke, that's our next warning sign. Symptom 7, smell burn. I once watched a guy at a rest stop crank his bike over and over until smoke poured out of the casing. He thought the smell was his clutch. By the time we figured it out, his starter was cooked solid. A quick stop for coffee turned into a call for a trailer. See, inside the starter are copper windings wrapped in insulation. When they overheat, that insulation cooks. It's like leaving bread in the toaster too long. You know that smell right away, acrid and unmistakable. After a failed start, touch the starter housing carefully. Warm is okay. Too hot to hold your hand on? That's a problem. Over 140 degrees is danger territory, and once insulation melts, the motor can short itself out. At that point, it's replacement time, $200 to $500 depending on your bike. And remember, smoke is a symptom, not the end. When a starter gets this hot, the cranking speed slows down next. Symptom 6, dragging crank. Instead of the usual strong starting sound, you hear a weak, sluggish turning. It's the sound of a bike that's trying, but failing, like a tired runner stumbling in the last mile. This happens when brushes are worn down, or when resistance in the windings is too high. The motor just doesn't have the muscle to spin fast anymore. A healthy one reads 12.6 to 13 volts fully charged. If the battery is good but the crank is still dragging, the motor is at fault. Begin with the basics. Clean all starter cable connections and grounds. Resistance at corroded terminals can mimic motor drag. If the wiring is clean, replace the brushes. If internal wear is heavy, swap the starter or rebuild it. Don't keep forcing a slow crank. It overheats cables and burns relays. Letting it drag overheats cables and can burn out your starter relay. A relay costs $50 to $120, but if the motor dies, it's $200 or more. Think of it like pushing a shopping cart with one bad wheel. It still moves, but it drags, it fights you, and eventually it breaks something else. And a slow crank often turns into something worse, unpredictability. Sometimes it starts, sometimes it doesn't. That's our next step. Symptom 5, intermittent starting. One day the bike fires instantly, the next day nothing. Riders often mistake this for a battery issue, but it's actually the brushes inside the starter motor making only partial contact. It's like an old flashlight that flickers when you shake it. Sometimes the connection is there, sometimes not. Here's a test. Tap the starter body gently with a rubber mallet, then try again. If the bike suddenly fires, the brushes are failing. An unreliable starter is more than an inconvenience. It can leave you stranded miles from home. Brush kits run $40 to $80, but a full replacement climbs to $200 to $350. I once had a buddy with an old Honda CB who lived this nightmare. He'd plan every ride around whether the starter would behave. Sometimes it fired right up. Other days, he'd sit sweating at a gas pump, trying over and over while cars lined up behind him. His solution was carrying something to tap it every time. That worked. Until it didn't. Don't wait for a breakdown. Subscribe today and catch problems before they leave you stuck on the side of the road. Because when the motor spins inconsistently, it is only a matter of time till the full disengagement. That's when the starter screams, but your engine doesn't even move. Symptom 4, starter spins but engine doesn't engage. You press the start button and hear the motor whir away like a hairdryer, spinning quickly and smoothly. For a moment, it feels like everything's working fine, except the engine doesn't move an inch. No compression, no turnover, no ignition. It's a frustrating moment because it sounds like progress, but it's a total illusion. What's actually happening is that the starter motor is doing its job. It's spinning, but the Bendix gear, or starter clutch, which is supposed to connect the motor to the engine's crankshaft, is slipping. That means there's no physical connection transferring that motion. The result? The starter spins in place, accomplishing nothing. You can often hear the difference if you listen closely. A free-spinning starter makes a higher-pitched whine than the deeper growl of a proper crank. It's like pedaling a bike with the chain off. You're moving, but the wheels aren't. This usually comes from wear on the starter clutch, or from sitting too long without lubrication. Replace the Bendix gear or starter clutch. Sometimes cleaning and relubricating the one-way clutch can help. Always check the flywheel teeth for damage. Don't keep trying. It just drains the battery and adds wear. Parts run $120 to $250, with labor another $200 to $400, and every free spin kills battery charge fast, leading into the next symptom. Symptom 3, battery drain after starts. Your motorcycle may still start, but it takes a few tries, and every time it does, you can feel it getting weaker. That once strong cranking sound starts to drag. Maybe your lights dim, or the bike hesitates before turning over. It's like taking a deep breath and realizing your lungs are only half full. Starting your bike shouldn't be that hard, especially if the battery is fresh. So what's going on? The issue here is excessive current draw. A properly functioning starter motor only needs around 50 to 150 amps of current, depending on engine size. But if the starter is faulty due to high resistance, worn brushes, or internal damage, it can pull much more than that. Instead of sipping power, it's chugging it like a fire hose. Each crank taxes your battery harder than it should. If you've got a clamp meter, you can verify this by measuring the amp draw while cranking. But even without tools, your bike's behavior will tip you off. If your fully charged battery drains quickly, or if you need to put it on a tender after every ride, the starter motor might be to blame. And that leads to a double whammy. First, you ruin your battery, which costs $80 to $150. Then, you still need to repair or replace the starter, which can easily run you another $200 plus. Even worse, a drained battery doesn't just stop your bike from starting, it drags down the whole electrical system. And that brings us to the next warning: crazy dashboard. Symptom 2, dashboard dashboard and lights. Flicker when starting. You press the starter and notice your dashboard go haywire. The display resets, the backlight cuts out, indicators flutter or go completely dark. It might only last a second or two, but it's a major clue and a sign that something deeper is wrong. This isn't a haunted bike. It's an electrical system under heavy stress. The starter motor is pulling more power than it should, and the rest of your motorcycle is paying the price. Here's why. Your bike's battery is like a central reservoir. When you press start, the motor demands a big gulp of current to spin the engine. If the starter is healthy, the electrical system can still keep the lights on. But a faulty starter pulls too much juice, starving everything else. Your headlight dims, your dashboard resets, your turn signals go dead. Test voltage drop during cranking. If it falls below 9.5 volts, the starter is overdrawing. Replace or rebuild the motor, which means spending $200 or $400. In the meantime, inspect fuses and regulators for damage from past spikes. Protect the ECU by addressing the starter issue before it fries your electronics. If your lights flicker or gauges reset when you hit start, don't ignore it. That's your electrical system crying out for help. Ignore it too long and the next symptom is the scariest of all: complete silence. Symptom 1. Complete starter motor failure. You've reached the end of the line. You hit the start button and absolutely nothing happens. No click, no whir, no grinding, just dead air. It's like shouting into a canyon and getting no echo. When your motorcycle starter motor completely fails, it's often sudden and final, but in truth, it's rarely a surprise. The signs were there all along. By the time you reach this point, multiple internal components may have failed. The brushes might be worn down to nothing. The windings could be burnt out, bearings could be seized, or the solenoid could be stuck in limbo, unable to bridge the connection. The result? A starter motor that won't do a thing, even if your battery is perfect and every other system is ready to go. There's one last test you can try: bridging the starter relay with a screwdriver. It's risky if you're unsure, but if nothing at all happens, not even a spark, you've confirmed it. The motor is toast, and unfortunately, so is your ability to ride until it's fixed. Starter motor replacement isn't cheap. Parts alone can run between $250 and $600, depending on your make and model. Add labor, and you're likely facing a bill that hurts. But the real cost isn't just in money, it's in confidence. When your starter fails completely, you begin to doubt your machine. Will it start tomorrow? Will it leave me stranded again? That's why catching the earlier signs, clicks, flickers, slow cranks, is critical. Your bike gives you warnings. Listen to them. Act early, and you can avoid the silence that follows a dead starter motor. Now that you've nailed starter motor problems, don't let the next one catch you off guard. Check out our next video, Symptoms of a Bad Motorcycle Ignition Coil, another silent killer that'll leave you stranded. Hit like and subscribe so you never miss a fix that could save your ride, and drop a comment below. What's the worst breakdown you've dealt with? Let's keep each other rolling.